All right. Hello, everybody. Hello, music lovers. This is Bonafide Mike here on the digital airwaves of YouTube with episode 17 of Just Two People Talking. And today, my guest is a musical pioneer. He is an artist that is hard to define. He has written, recorded, produced his own music for many years. He also has some amazing stories to tell us about music in general. So, without further ado, this is Gary Davenport. How are you doing today, sir?
Doing good, thank you.
All right. Well, I guess we'll kick this off. Let's start at the beginning. Let's turn back the time. And so, how did you develop an interest in music to begin with? Was it something you heard or saw as a kid? What piqued that interest?
Oh, there's a lot to tell. I mean, I was always hearing my father sing, so he had a great voice. But the stuff he was into, I was not into mostly. He was a big country and western fan. I developed a taste for that later, but he was trying to steer me in that direction. Of course, some of it I liked when I was hearing it, but he would come home and he would sing some of these songs to me when I was a kid. But what really triggered it, as it did for probably millions of other musicians around the world, were when the Beatles appeared on the Ed Sullivan Show.
Huh?
And that was in like February of 1964. I remember very well. I didn't know who they were. And as so many families did in America in those years, everybody was glued to the TV set on a Sunday night to watch Ed Sullivan. And we watched it every single Sunday. So when the Beatles came out, I was like, I was 9 years old. I was just floored by the performance because there was nothing like it at the time, really.
Mm-mm.
And my father hated them, though. He didn't like them one bit, man. And I never understood that. I was like, how can he not like what they're doing? But he was a big Elvis fan,
Oh,
right?
well, wouldn't that be kind of a similar thing, sort of?
Not really. I mean, when you think about it, I mean, as far as the energy, yeah. I mean, the way they um, turn so many people on. But as far as musically, no, 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 no. Definitely the excitement, yeah. My dad just, well, Elvis, he had his leanings toward, he's from the South, and he had some inspiration from uh, rhythm and blues or blues or perhaps country even. And, that was my dad's thing. Hank Williams, of course, was a god to my dad, so,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
The classics.
Yeah, yeah. So that was what did it for me, and I knew from the moment I saw the Beatles that I was going to do music. I was like, I'm going to do this, So even at 10 years old around the neighborhood, a couple of the kids and we started planning that we were going to do a band, and even though we didn't know how to play any instruments yet. So anyway,
So,
that's how it started.
so how many instruments do you play? Did you teach yourself guitar,
Yeah.
or can you play multiple instruments?
I can only play guitar and keyboards. And I'm not that great at keyboards, but I've certainly written a few things on the keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
But mostly guitar, yeah. And mostly, you know, rhythm guitar. I played lead for a little while during the Mannequin years when Mark Champion left the band. But that was it, I've left. Oh, no, I did play some lead guitar with Red Square. I'm doing the Ebo parts,
Mm-hmm.
you know, um, which it was an obsession at the time. I think I drove the band crazy with that damn thing. They're like, quit playing that thing. Anyway, yeah.
So, what was the first band that you had, or when you were starting music? What was your first project? I guess.
I was 12 years old. I just learned to play guitar. That's when I wrote my very first song. And, my dad made sure I got an acoustic guitar. He says, if you learn on this, I'll get you an electric guitar, which a year later I had an electric guitar. I had a Silvertone guitar and an Alamo amp. Back in those days, it was Alamo amps.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, and the name of the first band, because we were such Beatle fanatics,
Uh-oh.
was the Rubber Souls.
Oh, that's cool. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
And the guy that played bass with us, I think he thought he was Paul McCartney, and he even got the same kind of bass as not the same brand, but it was like a copy,
Like that
cheap
Hofner
copy.
bass that.
It was a copy of a Hofner bass, and we had a drummer, and that was it, the three of us. And that lasted probably about 3 years, maybe, not quite, you know.
Were those all like cover songs or were?
Yeah, we were doing Beatles songs is all we were doing.
Mm-hmm.
I had a couple of songs I'd written, they weren't too interested in them, and it wasn't, I actually performed my very first song about 15 years ago when I played live. Uh, I don't know why I decided to do that, but yeah.
So when you started with the other bands, like now we're going into like the Mannequin, Red Square days and all.
Yeah.
What was the music scene like back then when you had these bands? Like as far as places you could play, and
Right.
and doing the music. Like who else was around at that time?
Well, let me add a little context to all this because after that period, once I hit like 15, I really started to develop a way of playing and writing, and the songs improved. The lyrics were horrible. I mean, during the rubber solos, those were horrible years as far as lyrics and all that. I mean, I've got the notebook still, and I go, whoa. Yeah, anyway. But by the time I hit around 16, 15, 16, things started to come together. Still mostly a lot of acoustic stuff. And the band I was in then, we had different names: Blackwood, Chivalry,
Oh wow!
what was- oh, Poseidon even. But we played. I was going to Terrell Wells Junior High, and we got a gig there, the Sock Hop, and we did covers, and we did like Grand Funk. Uh, I'm Your Captain. We played the whole damn thing. We played Trapeze from Medusa. We played a song called Jury off that album.
Oh wow!
You know,
Like Glenn Hughes.
yeah. Oh, and that was hard to do. I mean, I couldn't play those lead guitar parts, man. But anyway. And then Mannequin came later after that, but it was much later actually. To get to that, and of course I met Frank Garcia, who became. We played music for 12 years, but a partnership formed at that point. That was a true partnership where we're going to make this happen, And so during those years, he came on board when we had a band called Poseidon, and then why do we call ourselves Poseidon? Because of King Crimson, and we did in the wake of Poseidon, by King Crimson. We didn't have a Mellotron, but we had that thing, the Elka strings. Anyway, and then from then Mannequin came along. The idea of Mannequin. There were so many incarnations of Mannequin, but Frank was with Mannequin all the way to the end.
Mm-hmm.
He was a drummer, and he was so true to the whole cause, And then we played our first live gig in 1976 at Via Fontana, and we opened for a band called Germany, who actually were better known as Quartet for years. That was with Kurt Otto, Barry Littleton, Mike Taylor, and Kevin Conway. They were, in my opinion, the very best band that ever came from San Antonio. During that period, there was nobody like them. And when they did covers, they did like Frank Zappa, King Kong, and but they had their own stuff. They had a Mellotron too, of course. Again, as I think I told you when we talked before, I was obsessed, and I still am obsessed with the Mellotron.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So anyway, of course we didn't have the money to get a Mellotron with Mannequin, but so we played our first gig there. That band, we had a guy that played keyboards and violin. My girlfriend at the time was playing keyboards also, and we had a bass player, of course, and I was on guitar, and Frank was on drums. And that whole band fell apart, and then Frank and I stayed together. And then the next band that came together was with Steve Sanchez, Mark Champion, and Brian Pogue. And that was the real glue that pulled together, and that's what everybody's familiar with to this period. From the album that came out, Scattered Thoughts, where they lifted some of the songs of Mannequin. for that album. I'm going all over the place here, but
Oh no, that's fine. I was
yeah.
going to ask you too, because as you're speaking about that, who came up with the name Mannequin for
Uh,
the band?
well, I did because I was obsessed with Genesis at the time, and Peter Gabriel, and they had their album Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, which I was able to see when I was incredible. Anyway, but they have a song called "The Carpet Crawlers,"
Oh
and
yes.
there's a line in there about the porcelain mannequin. I was like, oh, mannequin. No, that sounds. I like that. You know, oh, that could be a name of a band. So I threw it out to the rest of the guys, and yeah, okay, yeah, that works. Of course, the lyrics they spelled it Manikin,
Hmm.
but we used it's the as it's known in the dictionary, I suppose. It's Mannequin.
Hmm.
So, and that was it. So we stuck with the name, and yeah, it worked. Yeah.
Now,
So from 1976 to 1984, we were a band.
now during this time, Mannequin slash Red Square. Were you at Record Hole at this time?
Yes, well, no, 1976. I was working with a company called Lean Chemical Company, and I drove all over town. I was the guy that went into the restrooms and put those little air fresheners up there to make the bathroom smell better, right?
Oh yeah.
And I had my little blue uniform with Lean Chemical Company on one side and my name on the other. And I hated it. And I always smelled like those chemicals at the end of the day. And I also cleaned toilets too. Not fun.
I
Not fun at
know. I
all.
don't.
And I was in my first marriage at the time. And that's when the first mannequin was that I was just telling you about during that Via Fontana show. Um, and that thing was advertised on KEXL. We sold tickets for that show. Anyway, but we were the opening band, and we covered a song from Genesis and David Bowie.
Oh okay.
And who else did we cover? Somebody else I'm missing here. A band, a completely unknown band called T2, an English band.
Yeah.
And they had a great song called JLT. That we covered that song. Listen to that song. It's a great song, man. Anyway, uh, but I'm digressing. Oh yeah, so you asked about Record Hole, or so with Lean Chemical Company, I kept going. I was always going into Record Hole, of course, because it was the record shop at the time.
Hmm.
Before Sound Warehouse came along, there was Record Town and Budget Records. They went out of business.
Hastings, was that around at the
Not
time?
yet.
Not yet.
No. So what happened was, because I was such a regular customer at Record Hole, on my routes I would go in there and I would buy albums all the time, and I got to know the employees there, and they got to know me, and they kind of realized, hey, this guy has a real passion for this, and he seems to know what he's talking about when anyway. And so yeah, I got hired, and I became the import buyer eventually, and that's how I met Will Sharp, who was the manager of the Next. And that's
Ty
how
Gavin's band.
Ty Gavin's band, and it was through Will that I'm sure he asked the band too, but you know he he asked them, I guess, about it, and they agreed, and so we opened for them, and that was during the time that well, they would come in sometimes. And you have to remember, I had long hair, and in those days, flared jeans were the thing. But here comes the Next into the store, and they were punks, and they were dressed differently,
Oh yeah.
and I was like, whoa, what is this all about? And that was during the time the Sex Pistols, came to town. But so we were selling a lot of the punk and new wave stuff, and I was like, what is all this? And because I was still a lot into prog rock at the time, although there was a band called Metro that I was nuts about with Duncan Brown, who's an amazing songwriter. But anyway, I was heavily influenced by that. And I wanted Mannequin to be like that, but also somewhat prog rockish as well, although we would never really were prog rock,
Yeah.
you know. And there wasn't even a term for that kind of music at the time.
I don't think
It
so.
was never used at that time. In fact, Robert Fripp hates, well, I shouldn't say hates, but he doesn't like to use a term to describe King Crimson as prog rock. But well, they weren't always that kind of sound either.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going on and on here. So,
Well, real quick, also
yeah,
for most people, they probably don't know this, but Record Hole that was in North Star Mall.
yes.
A lot of people don't know that there was a music store there.
Well, if you knew anything of, if you wanted something that was different and interesting, and actually you could get anything there pretty much. It might take us a few days to get something. I'm saying we, like I'm still working there.
Well, in our minds, we are.
Well, I'm going back there in time. You know.
Yeah, and that's perfectly
That's what
fine,
it is.
though. That.
But I'm having all these feelings and, these thoughts are floating up. But yeah, it was a great place to work. And if you were, that was my passion. And I was able to say goodbye to the Lean Chemical Company also,
Oh, good for that.
Although I did work as a disco DJ on the Riverwalk.
No way.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I had 3 jobs at the time with no life of my own. I had a lot of money coming in, but I didn't have a life anymore.
That's what usually happens.
Yeah. So yeah, I would. Well, before when I got hired by Record Hole, I only worked part time, and eventually I worked full time there. And was able to quit all my other jobs, but I was working as a disco DJ on the Riverwalk. I would go in at like 8 o'clock at night and work till 2 in the morning, and then have to get up at 7 or 7:30 in the morning to get to Lean Chemical Company by 8 in the morning.
God.
And then work that till 4:30, and then go to Record Hole by 5 and work till 9:15.
Oh my God.
And then go and repeat the whole thing again.
Which was this disco on the Riverwalk?
It's a place called the Royal Street Crossing, and I was there from like 1978 through 80, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And I hated it, man. It was great money, beautiful girls. What can I say about that? That's what contributed to my failed marriage at the time.
Uh-oh.
Just saying, being honest here.
Yeah.
You can edit that out if you like, but I don't care. I'm just being honest. Which became a problem for me again later, though. But anyway, I digress. But I would go home at 2 a.m. with these songs playing in my head still from the disco. And I couldn't stand it, right?
Oh my
I'm
God.
trying to get to sleep by 2:30 at home. And I still have a song, Don't Leave Me This Way by, who is it? I think Thelma Houston.
Yeah. There you go.
Oh man, and I finally would fall asleep. And then I would be just wiped out at 7:30 and have to go to Lean Chemical,
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I finally got away from all that when I was able to work full time at Record Hole.
Okay.
So there you go.
So.
But yeah, it was the place to go to get music. And I met so many people there. I met Mark Champion there,
Mm-hmm.
Brian Pogue, who became our keyboard player. Steve Sanchez I met separately before all that time. But anyway.
So when you were at Record Hole, real quick, did you guys do any in-stores? Did you have bands that came in to do signings?
Not at that, no. We had people come in from bands that were doing concerts in town. Like what was his name? The first guitarist of the Pretenders. He came in.
Oh, James Honeyman Scott.
There you go, thank you. And I couldn't remember his name. I wasn't there at the time. And then John Cale came in.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I wasn't there, though. And he was, to this day, is one of my favorite songwriters.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily for me, one of my coworkers, we had posters for the show. And I was always pushing his music. And so luckily, one of my coworkers told him, well, there's a guy that works here that orders your music for the store on import all the time. And I know he would love to have been here to have met you. He goes, well, where is he, He's, he's in Mexico and he's having a great time. Or he's been in Mexico and he just got back. Anyway, and so he says, yeah, well, I'll sign a poster for him. And he signed Fuck the good time, Gary. John Kill. And where's the poster now? I don't know.
It's MIA.
It's missing in action for sure, yeah. Like a lot of things here.
So
Anyway.
so now, as you're doing all these shows with these bands,
Oh, yeah.
can you kind of talk briefly a little bit about like some of the your favorite shows that you did, or some shows that you were really proud of? Like, man, this was a great gig.
Well, okay, and more context, but I'll try to cut it a little shorter this time. Well, of course, so we opened for the Next in Austin. And this was our chance to, yeah, let's do this. But our first record was, the Next were a punk band. We weren't a punk band at all. Our very first recording was, flutes and clarinets and string synthesizer. It was like prog folk, I guess you could call it. And, it's like the Scattered Thoughts song was on the first record.
Yes.
So I thought, what are we going to do? We thought, what are we going to do? So we came up with like 9 brand new songs, just da-da-da-da-da. Just like, a few chords, punk, because we knew we were going to bomb if we played those other songs. Then we had like 3 weeks to go. They were horrible songs, really. And they were about 2 minutes each, But we did them, and we managed to get it done. So I've got pictures. I don't have them, so I can show you now, but I got pictures of that first show. And my apartment, I had a rolled up fencing that we unrolled in front of the stage. Anyway, I'm getting too much detail. The point is, we bombed. It was horrible.
And this is at the Next show.
Opening for the Next.
That must have been quite a contrast.
At Raoul's in Austin, right? It was terrible, man. Yeah, we just bombed. And so, but the next couple of times we played with them, we were much better. And, yeah, I mean, we got better. And then after that, you're asking me better shows. Those didn't come along till really when we started to be honest with who we were as a band, musically. And that's when we came up with songs like Desperate Situation, Transients, Labyrinth, and those kinds of songs. Because we weren't a punk band, So
Oh yeah.
another show we did was, because people still thought in Austin that we were a punk band, and we got hired at a place called Duke's Royal Cochin, opening for punk bands. And we bombed there. We were good, but we were doing what we really were supposed to be doing as a band, or what we were as a band. And those songs I was just telling you about, that the audience booed us. They didn't like them, and they started throwing things at us. And so I said, well, let's keep this short in my head. And so I said, well, let's get out of here. And so I said, okay, this is our last song. And they were like, yay! And I just looked at the other guys and I said, yeah, but this one is 30 minutes long.
Oh,
and they were like, oh no, So it was a joke, of course. And that was it. And but finally, we started getting gigs, and it was hard to get gigs at that time in San Antonio. There weren't many places to play,
What was around at that time?
Well, there was Milo's, who was out there at UTSA Boulevard.
Oh God.
We're talking about 1980, 81, 82. And we had some good shows there. Platform of Youth, Chris Smart's band, and Mark Sims, they opened for us there. That was a good place to play. And then, what else was there, man? I'm trying to...
What about on St. Mary's?
I'm going blank here. I'm going so blank. There was one place, I can't remember the name of it, man. I wish I had some of the other guys here. I've forgotten a lot of stuff. My brain is not functioning right like it used to. It's probably because of too much drinking back then. Because a lot of those shows I had too much to drink.
Well, I'm not sure if those places were around when you were doing it, but there was like Wacky's, Crazy Horse, Taco Land, Rockies.
Red Square played Taco Land, but Mannequin never did. Taco Land was after Mannequin. Wacky's, I think we played one show there. We played the Brave Music Festival, that was what was it called then? This was after the Teen Canteen years. Skip
Oh,
Willie's.
oh wow!
We
I
played
hadn't
there.
heard that name in a while.
Yeah, we played there. We played Raw Power and Light. Uh,
Teen Canteen, man.
yeah, I know. We never played Teen Canteen. But we played Skip Willie's. So, which was the Teen Canteen.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Those were. I guess that scene too. Also, back then was totally different as the years started progressing.
yeah. Well, we played the San Antonio Country, which is a gay club, and then they closed there and then opened the Bonham,
Hmm.
and we played there. And a lot of bands were playing at these places. You know, even Claude Morgan and the Blast, we played with them at the San Antonio Country,
Mm.
and then we also played at the Bonham, but we opened for Modern English there.
Oh, you played at the Bonham.
Yeah,
Yeah, they used to do shows. Yeah,
yeah. Iggy Pop was there. You know,
that's right. That's right.
and
A lot of people don't know
I
that.
wish we had been able to open for him, but we did open for Modern English, and they had their hit. You know, I Melt with You.
Hmm.
And then we also opened for Wall of Voodoo there. And that was a good show.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Stan Ridgway's band.
Yeah. Remember Mexican radio?
Oh yeah,
So, you know.
yes I do.
So, and that was real good for us because that opened us up to a bigger, wider audience. And that because of that, we had bigger audiences show up at our gigs. We also shared gigs with the Infidels. Um, gosh, who else locally did we share gigs with, man? I can't remember. Uh, but anyway, so those were the Mannequin years, and then Red Square. You know, Mannequin split up in 1984. I didn't want to be. I didn't want anything to do with bands at that time. I just wanted to just kind of take it easy for a bit.
Hmm.
But that only lasted for 6 months because. Oh, and we opened. Also, I'm forgetting about the Entropics. Entropics were amazing. I'm leaving out a lot of stuff here. I forgot about the record label. That's when the Rejects came along. They were on our record label. They were amazing. Mike Escamilla and Tubular Face later.
Wow.
Yeah. And you need to talk to Mike Escamilla, man, because he's got stories to tell, of course, from that period. And, you know, there's a whole history there with Mike. But anyway, but they were on Closet Records too. That was the whole idea. I always wanted to have a record label, and that's during those years as well.
Hmm.
So, you know, if you could find the Rejects record anywhere, at one time it was going for $1,200 on eBay
Wow.
or Discogs, you know.
Hmm.
But I'm going all over the place here. So after that, you know, I'm trying to think of one other thing here. I'm missing something. Oh, it's okay.
Well, that Via Fontana, that place had a lot of pretty iconic shows. Everybody always talks about the Slayer versus Slayer
Oh yeah.
show, the SA Slayer versus the LA Slayer. That's even on a T-shirt. I know at Hogwild they have a shirt of that flyer.
Oh really?
So yeah, and so so I guess that place hosted a lot of I guess everything from metal to alternative to
Yeah.
just
Oh,
all
yeah.
kinds of
Oh,
bands.
They did. I mean, yeah. I mean, the Mannequin show with Germany, that was in 1976, but later on with Red Square, we opened for the Dead Kennedys
Oh,
and Marching Plague. Now, that didn't go over for us well either because we were so different from Dead Kennedys, right?
oh yeah,
And
Jello.
Marching Plague for that matter, right?
Yeah,
The audience didn't like us. It was not a good show for us, but
yeah. Marching Plague was that was a local band.
yeah, they were.
I forget who was in that band. I know one of the guys used to work at the Bone Club.
Yeah.
No, not a lot of people remember that place either.
That's
the
right.
Bone
Red
Club.
Square played many shows there. Many shows. That was a regular place for us to play.
And that place was like as big as this room we're in right now.
It was tiny.
Yeah,
And the stage was really small.
Oh.
So we were really crowded up there.
yeah, if you want to call it a stage.
Yeah. And, but,
But those were the good old days, though.
yeah. And, you know, when Red Square first started out, it was tough because I told you this before, I believe, but, you know, the name, we were going to change the name. We didn't really like the name.
Mhm.
It was just, Will, our lead guitarist, he had written a song called Red Square. which we never did after like 6 months. I don't know why, but he said, well, let's, we had like 3 weeks to go before our very first gig at Raw Power. And they were asking us, we're going to promote the show, but we need a name. And so we gave them the name, and they kind of, when it was advertised in the San Antonio Light and the Express, it was, Red Square, and they would say, well, 2 former members of Mannequin are in this band, blah, blah, blah. Because that was, in the hopes that we could get people from Mannequin. But the people that liked Mannequin really didn't care for Red Square. Nope, nope,
Yeah.
nope. They didn't care. They really didn't.
Well, I guess because they were kind of
Very
different. I know
different.
the Red Square album.
Yeah.
Listening to it had more of a kind of like a, to me when I heard it's kind of like a cross if you mix in like the Alarm and a little bit of U2 and Police and more of the college stuff. That was around then, not now.
That was that period. And although we were, or well, the other guys were too. But I was a huge fan of the Chameleons, and we even covered one of their songs when we played live. We covered that. We did "Badge" by Cream.
Oh my god!
And we did it well, man.
That
Will copied Clapton's guitar parts to the T. It was great.
wow.
Anyway, but well, I think there was another cover song. Anyway, but Red Square was fun, but we didn't draw an audience till as time went by. It was about, I would say, 6 to 8 months later that we finally started to draw an audience. But it took a while, and but we made a commitment that no matter what, no matter how bad it was for us, even if there were only 5 people showing up at our gigs, we would stick together and stick through everything for 2 years, and we stayed true to that. So we were together for about 4 years. Anyway.
That's awesome though. So now, with all that, God, that's so much history in music. So let's fast forward to the present.
Yeah.
So what would you say? What keeps you motivated to keep writing and recording music?
Well, God, that's a good question. A couple of things popped into my head when you said that. Well, I mean, I think I probably am speaking for so many people who would probably have the same answer. I mean, once it's in your blood, it's hard not to return to it. It's part of your soul in a way. I mean, so many things are expressed that way. You might be writing about something that interests you, or maybe you want to make a social commentary on something, which is something I have done, even currently. But on the other hand, it can be autobiographical to a certain extent. But yeah, it's in your blood. It's part of your soul, part of your inner makeup, and it's a spiritual experience, really. When you're really present with it. Now, there have been moments when I haven't been present in that, but that's a whole other kind of thing. But my mind kind of split when you asked me that question, because I had a girlfriend at the time. Oh man, and I was always listening to music. Worked at a record hall, music. And finally she says, "Don't you ever do anything else? Surely you have some other interests." And that hit me really hard. I was like, "Yeah, I do actually." But it kind of affected me. I was like, "Wow." So I was reading a lot. I've always been a reader, huge reader. Still read a lot, but I've always kind of been involved with spiritual things as well, which not religious, yes, but more spiritual. That's a whole other discussion for another time. But it affected me in such a way that I kind of started to pull back from music a little bit, in a way, not really. And that's okay, because eventually that became a problem between us and our relationship.
Oh my.
Where I kind of got distant from her and she got distant from me, and created arguments and stuff. Anyway, that's it. I mean, I think I answered your question. It's just, again, I think that's probably the case for a lot of people that do music.
Yeah, because
But you're right.
I have always said that music is food for the soul.
Yeah.
It's songs are memories.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people kind of dismiss that, but those are people who are not really into it like we are.
Yeah.
So anyway, so the way as well, like what I was asking you about staying motivated, and I know we touched on this when the last time we spoke. Um, any thoughts about the whole AI thing, the way
Uh,
music writing has shifted?
well, I don't know enough about it yet. Not yet, but I'm turned off. I'm always the first person to be reluctant with any kind of modern technology. I mean, maybe back in the day, in the 60s and 70s, I thought, oh no, no, I want modern technology, but I've always been suspicious of it. And I think I don't trust it really,
Hmm.
even today. Uh, with my voice the way it is now, because it has been affected because of my cancer. Um, a friend suggested to me, because it's hard, I can't sing any of my songs from the past anymore. So I'm having to redevelop and create new songs with the current voice. But a friend suggested to me, hey, you could use AI, and or maybe it was you.
No, it wasn't me.
No, okay. Somebody suggested to me, you could lift your voice from your past and sing as with your new songs and just dub it in. I thought, yeah, I could do that, but just don't know.
That's like cheating, though.
Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like it. So I would rather, maybe do what Tom Waits had to do or Leonard Cohen,
Oh yeah.
where their voices changed as the years went by, probably from too much smoking.
Oh, I'm
Right.
sure.
I mean, I was a heavy smoker one time too, and maybe this is why my voice is the way it is now. But I quit smoking years ago, years and years ago. According to the doctors, my voice is not like this. The cancer is not from smoking. So why it's this way, I don't know. But it's here in my neck, and it paralyzed half of my vocal cords, so that's why my voice is like this.
Mm.
But anyway, I will continue to write. Uh, I do have some plans to record here in the future. My good friend John Marcel's been waiting forever for me to write lyrics and add vocals to some music he came up with.
Oh,
Uh,
that's awesome.
with DMT. So that's my. I guess we are calling ourselves a band. And will we ever play live? God, who knows? But I would love to play live with DMT. Only problem is, the first album that we come up with, I can't do those songs now because of my voice the way it is. So, but we're supposed to do a second album, and I would have to do my voice with the new songs. So,
All right. Okay. Well, as we start to wrap up the interview, I've got to ask you this, and you need to tell this story to our viewers out there since you were there. Can you briefly or expound on that Sex Pistols infamous show at Randy's Rodeo and all the funny stuff that came along with it?
Well, I was at Record Hall at the time. This is 1978, January. But of course, we'd already gotten word that they were going to sell tickets to the show there, like in late November or early December. And the tickets were only $3.50. And I knew nothing about the Sex Pistols. And Will, once again, manager of the Next, we'd become friends from working together there. And I remember my hair was long at the time, and I wasn't quite into punk yet, although I was trying to. There were certain things I actually liked, like I'm going blanking, like 999 and Wire I loved. But anyway, uh, like Sex Pistols, and Will's going, you are going to go. He's saying to me, I'm like, I don't know who they are. He goes, you don't know who the Sex Pistols are? Oh, you're going to go. You've got to go. So, I told the other guys in the band, and Steve knew. Of course, Steve, our bass player, he was from England. And Mark, Mark knew too. Anyway, so we go, we're kind of standing out from everybody else that was at the show because, it's a punk show and we're talking about the real deal stuff, as far as how they appeared, I
Mm-hmm.
should say.
With the safety pins and all
Safety
that.
pins through the cheeks and stuff. Yeah, yeah, through the eyebrows and stuff. And we're there, long hair and bell bottom pants and stuff. And anyway, we walk in and there were two opening bands and the Sex Pistols intentionally kept us waiting for it was a good hour. I would say it was at least an hour. It might have been an hour and 15 minutes. But the place, were like packed like sardines. It was a sold out show.
Yeah.
And it was fucking hot, And I hope it was okay to use that word.
No, say whatever you want.
Okay, thank you very much. And so it was hot. And we were all sweating, and people were drinking a lot of beer. We were drinking a lot of beer. And finally they came on. And I can't remember what their opening remarks were because I was, I was pretty juiced up at the time. And then they just started, and they were incredible. The energy was like, whoa. I just couldn't believe my ears. Like, man, this is not any BS or this band's for real. They're the real deal as far as how they played. And, but there were comments in between songs. And of course, Johnny Rotten, had his comments. And there was a group of people on the right side of, we were facing the stage, they were on the right side. And they were trying to charge the stage at times, and security was having to push back, because of some of the things that Johnny Rotten was saying. And at one point, now I don't know exactly what he said, but I'm going to give a few words. And you have to remember that these were people that are just purely curiosity seekers. And they hated things like this, shows like this, punk rock, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I guess back in the day, we would have called them rednecks. And they were there, man. They were definitely there. And so, and some of them were wearing cowboy hats there as well. And so Johnny Rotten says, everybody knows that cowboys are nothing but a bunch of faggots. Or something similar. Or he said cowboy faggots or something like that. And they rushed the stage for sure. And security had to push back. They had a lot of security there to make sure of that. And so they managed to stop anything from happening, thank goodness. And then on the other side of the stage, at some point, somebody hit Sid Vicious, and this is well known, this has been documented. I believe it was even in Rolling Stone. I think there's even a film clip of it somewhere. There's certainly photographs. But he got hit in the mouth by a full, I would say mostly a full can of beer. And it caused him to bleed, and he stopped. I mean, he got down with his bass guitar and clubbed this guy, or I'm not sure if he clubbed the guy, but he went after him. He may have hit him. I don't remember, but maybe I couldn't see it. So many years ago. But that was when Johnny Rotten then says, "Sydney, can we please get on with the proceedings?" And of course, we all laughed, and that was great. It was great. I thought it was great humor. That was something I remembered quite well. And so, of course, eventually he got up there, and then they went right back into it, and it was, bam, full force again, Of course, I think a week after that, it was all over for them.
Mm-hmm.
Their last gig in San Francisco, where I remember, I don't remember which members of the band said it, but they were tired of being a circus act, and they were being treated as a circus act.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, they were entertaining. They were funny. You couldn't help but laugh because they had a great sense of humor, but they were definitely out to insult. And they made social commentary about the state of things. If you buy into this bullshit propaganda that our government feeds us, then you're an idiot. Kind of stuff like that, And to this day, that holds true. I mean, how can you disagree with that? It's still going on. If anything, it's worse today than ever before. So there is a current Mannequin band that's kind of in the works there are three songs that are going to be released in one day, and one of the songs is called Methods of Propaganda. And it's all about what's going on today.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not talking about just Donald Trump and his group of crazies, but it's going on with the administration before this one, and the one before the Biden one, and on it goes. It's just, we've all bought into it. So one day, this is for the audience out there, you're going to hear a song called Methods of Propaganda by Mannequin. And yeah, you get to hear it eventually.
Oh, that's awesome. That Sex Pistols story is just, I could never get tired of hearing that. Those guys were like larger than life. It's just they're so animated, and I can't imagine what the vibe was at Randy's rodeo when that was happening.
Oh man, and it changed a lot of people. I mean, well, it changed Mannequin at the time, as I say, when we opened for the next, but we weren't a punk band. I mean, we just weren't. But it certainly made us look at things differently, that's for sure. And it was great rock music. I mean, that was the thing. They were just an incredible rock band, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
The Clash were great too, but the Clash weren't that kind of energy. Look how they branched out later on too. Their sound.
Yeah, with the reggae dub.
Yeah, and it was great stuff too, though. It was awesome. They were a great band, and I got to see them in Austin. I saw so many bands back then. But
that's amazing. So
yeah.
anyway, so I guess we'll close it with one last comment. So how can people find out about your new music or what you're up to, or if you have any scheduled performances or just whatever you have currently going on with your musical career?
I once had a website and I shut that down for about 10 years, but maybe I should open it up again. Anyway, right now, if you want to hear my music, you have to go to YouTube, you can go to Spotify, you can go to Pandora, you can go to Apple, you can go to any kind of listening devices. And thanks to me signing with the Numero Group, that's how all that happened. As far as live shows, there's nothing coming up right now. It'll be a while. If I play live again, and I hope to, it'll be about a year from now. I do have an album coming out at the end of this year with the Numero Group. Actually, it's a subsidiary of the Numero Group on a label called Pecos Records. And I was with a group called Himmel. It was at the same time as Mannequin. I didn't even talk about that. That's coming out, and then Red Square is being reissued.
Oh, okay.
On a label called Brainwave Records. But the Numero Group is also interested in that. I don't have enough information yet, but the Numero Group, I believe, is going to be involved with publishing and promotion of Red Square. But Brainwave Records is going to release it on vinyl again. And I don't know when that's going to be released. Right now, they're improving the sound of the recording, which isn't the greatest sound production, but they're going to try to improve it. So Red Square should be coming out this year, sometime at the end of the year, I would say. Himmel at the end of the year for sure. Again, Pecos Records. And DMT, hopefully, will have another album at the end of this year too, with all new songs and my voice with how it is now. And that's about it, I think. So, yeah, that's it.
No, that's awesome. All right. Well, thanks for sharing all your stories with us, Gary. I loved hearing all the funny stuff and all the interesting stuff and the way you started your career and how everything's came along. So thanks for chatting with us and sharing all that information. And we look forward to those releases, I guess, later this year.
Sure.
And thank you so much for coming on to the show. So we appreciate it. Thank you, Gary.
Thank you. It's good.
All right. We're out.